Have you ever been in a marriage where you love your spouse deeply, yet somehow you're constantly at each other's throats? Where the person who's supposed to be your safe haven becomes the source of your deepest pain. Today I want to share a story that might just save your marriage and possibly your life. Because what happened to this woman didn't just transform her relationship, it pulled her back from the darkest edge imaginable. Marriage is supposed to be this beautiful union, right? Two people coming together, building a life, supporting each other through thick and thin. But here's what nobody tells you about marriage, especially the happy ones from the outside looking in. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who can hurt us deepest. And when you're trapped in a cycle of constant conflict with the person you chose to spend forever with, it doesn't just break your heart, it can break your spirit entirely. This woman's story started like so many others. She was happily married, or at least that's what everyone saw from the outside. But behind closed doors, there was something else happening. A pattern that so many couples fall into without even realizing it. Constant conflict. Not the big, explosive fights that end with makeup sessions and renewed love. No, this was something more insidious. The daily friction, the ongoing disagreements, the feeling that no matter what she did or said, they just couldn't see eye to eye. Now here's what's fascinating about this situation. When we hear happily married and constant conflict in the same sentence, it seems contradictory. But it's actually more common than you might think. Love and conflict aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, sometimes the intensity of our love makes the conflicts feel even more devastating. When someone matters that much to you, when their opinion carries that much weight, every disagreement feels like a rejection of who you are at your core. Think about it this way. With strangers or acquaintances, we can brush off disagreements pretty easily. But when your life partner, the person who knows you better than anyone else, consistently seems to be on the opposite side of every conversation, it starts to feel personal. It starts to feel like maybe you're fundamentally incompatible. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you're the problem. This is exactly where this woman found herself. Day after day, conflict after conflict, until something inside her began to break down. The cumulative effect of ongoing marital discord isn't just emotional exhaustion. It's not just feeling disconnected from your spouse. For some people, it becomes something much more dangerous. It becomes a question of whether life itself is worth living. And that's exactly where her story takes the most serious turn. Because when you're in that constant state of conflict with the person who's supposed to be your biggest supporter, when home doesn't feel like a refuge anymore, when the relationship that was supposed to bring you joy becomes a source of daily pain, some people start to wonder if there's any way out. And for this woman, that wondering became something much darker. She reached a point where ending her life seemed like the only solution to the endless cycle of conflict and pain. This isn't uncommon in troubled relationships, though it's something we rarely talk about openly. The statistics on suicide rates among people in distressed marriages are sobering. When your primary relationship becomes a source of chronic stress and conflict, it affects every aspect of your mental and emotional well-being. But here's where her story takes an unexpected turn, and why I wanted to share it with you today. Because what happened next wasn't a marriage counseling breakthrough or a communication technique that suddenly fixed everything. What happened was something that changed her from the inside out and ultimately transformed not just her perspective, but her entire approach to the relationship. Something physical happened to her. Now, she doesn't go into detail about what exactly this physical experience was, but the timing is significant. Right at her darkest moment, when she was contemplating ending her life, her body somehow responded in a way that got her attention. Sometimes our bodies know what our minds haven't figured out yet. Sometimes a physical symptom or sensation can be the wake-up call that saves us from ourselves. This physical experience did something profound. It convicted her heart about the thoughts she'd been entertaining. And this is where the story gets really interesting, because conviction isn't the same as guilt or shame. Conviction is that deep, inner knowing that something isn't right. It's your moral compass pointing you in a different direction. It's recognition that the path you're on isn't the path you want to be on. She wept. Not just cried, but wept. There's a difference between tears of frustration and tears of recognition. When someone weeps, it's usually because they're seeing something clearly for the first time, or they're releasing something they've been holding on to too tightly. In this case, she was probably releasing both the pain of her marriage struggles and the shame of having considered suicide as a solution. Then she did something that changed everything. She asked for forgiveness, not from her husband, but from God. She recognized that her suicidal thoughts weren't just about her pain or her marriage problems. They were about losing sight of the value and purpose of her life. Asking for forgiveness in that moment wasn't about religious obligation. It was about reconnecting with something bigger than her immediate circumstances. But she didn't stop there. She asked for help. Specifically, she said, "Jesus, help me, give me strength." And this is crucial because it represents a fundamental shift in her approach to her problems. Instead of trying to solve everything herself, instead of seeing her husband as the enemy to be defeated, or herself as a victim to be pitied, she reached out for divine assistance. What happened next is what makes this story worth telling. She felt a divine presence with her. Not just emotional relief, though I'm sure that was part of it. Not just a renewed sense of hope, though that was probably there too. She felt an actual presence, a spiritual reality that gave her strength she didn't have before. Now, whether you're religious or not, there's something powerful about this moment. Because what she experienced was a complete shift in perspective. Instead of being alone in her marriage struggles, she realized she had access to resources beyond her own limited emotional and mental capacity. Instead of seeing her problems as insurmountable, she found herself connected to a source of strength that didn't depend on her circumstances. This divine encounter didn't magically fix her marriage problems. The conflicts didn't disappear overnight. Her husband didn't suddenly become a different person. But something in her fundamentally changed, and that internal change became the foundation for transforming her relationship. When you feel that kind of divine presence and support, it changes how you approach conflict. Instead of fighting from a place of desperation or fear, you can engage from a place of security and love. Instead of seeing your spouse as the enemy, you can remember that you're both human beings doing the best you can with the tools you have. The strength she received wasn't just emotional strength to endure her problems. It was transformational strength to become the kind of person who could create different outcomes in her relationship. When you're connected to something bigger than yourself, when you have access to divine wisdom and love, you show up differently in your conflicts. Here's what I want you to take away from this story. If you're in a relationship where conflict seems constant, where love and frustration exist side by side, where you're starting to wonder if things will ever get better, remember that transformation is possible. But it might not come from the direction you expect. Sometimes the change you need isn't in your circumstances. Sometimes it's in your connection to something greater than those circumstances. Sometimes finding peace in your relationship starts with finding peace in your spirit. And sometimes the strength you need to create the marriage you want comes not from your own determination, but from opening yourself up to divine assistance. This woman's story reminds us that even our darkest moments can become doorways to breakthrough, and that help is available even when we can't see a way forward ourselves.